For months, Red Bull have been surrounded by uncertainty heading into the biggest regulation reset in modern Formula One history. A brand new power unit built with Ford, the departure of Adrian Newey, senior leadership figures walking away, and a grid full of rivals convinced that 2026 would finally be the moment Red Bull fall back to the pack. But now the narrative is changing, and fast. Inside the paddock, Red Bull's internal tone has shifted from damage limitation to cautious confidence. Journalists are hearing different whispers. Engineers are speaking differently. And most importantly of all, Max Verstappen no longer sounds like a driver preparing an exit strategy. If you want to understand why this matters, why it could reshape the entire 2026 title fight, and why this video might completely change how you see Red Bull's future, make sure you're subscribed right now. The 2026 Formula One season is not just another regulation change for Red Bull Racing. It is a defining moment that will determine whether this team remains a powerhouse or begins a slow decline. For the first time since their arrival in Formula One back in 2005, Red Bull are entering a new technical era without Adrian Newey. For nearly 2 decades, Newey's vision shaped every championship-winning concept, every aerodynamic breakthrough, and every dominant car philosophy the team produced. His absence alone would be enough to raise serious concerns. But the changes do not stop there. Over the past 18 months, Red Bull have lost an extraordinary amount of senior leadership. Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, Jonathan Wheatley, and Rob Marshall. Figures who defined Red Bull's culture, decision-making, and race day execution have all moved on. To many inside the paddock, this looked like a slow dismantling of the structure that made Red Bull so formidable. When you combine that with a brand new power unit built in partnership with Ford, the early outlook for 2016 appeared bleak. 12 months ago, even internal conversations suggested Red Bull could be in serious trouble. Some believed their power unit might start the season near the back of the grid, but according to respected F1 journalist John Noble, something significant has changed since then. Red Bull's internal messaging has shifted. The tone is no longer fearful, it is cautiously optimistic. While Mercedes are still widely expected to lead the field under the new regulations, Red Bull no longer see themselves as outsiders. There is now genuine belief that they will be competitive and possibly far closer to the front than anyone anticipated. That shift in confidence matters because the 2026 power unit rules are among the most complex Formula One has ever introduced. Performance will no longer be defined by raw engine power alone. Battery efficiency, energy harvesting, deployment strategies, fuel chemistry, and compression ratios will all play crucial roles. One manufacturer may have a superior battery, but a weaker internal combustion engine. Another may excel in fuel efficiency but struggle with electrical deployment. In such a finely balanced formula, even 1 or 2 tenths of a second per lap could decide championships. Ferrari, despite their reputation, are believed to be facing internal challenges with their new engine concept. Honda have growing concerns over battery performance, which offers unexpected reassurance for Red Bull after ending their partnership with the Japanese manufacturer. Audi, meanwhile, have deliberately played down expectations, hinting that their focus may be more long-term than immediate success. Against this backdrop, Red Bull's recruitment strategy begins to make sense. Over the last few years, they have aggressively signed engineers from both Honda and Mercedes to build their powertrains division in Milton Keynes. This blending of engineering philosophies could prove decisive. There are even strong rumors that Red Bull and Mercedes may have independently discovered the same loophole within the 26 engine regulations, specifically involving compression ratios. If that is true, it would offer a small but critical advantage, and in an era where margins are expected to be incredibly tight, small advantages can define the entire pecking order. On the sporting side, Max Verstappen enters 2026 in unfamiliar territory. For the first time since 2021, he will not carry the number 1 on his car. Despite a remarkable comeback during the second half of 2025, he lost the championship to Lando Norris by just 2 points. Internally, Red Bull know that defeat was not Verstappen's fault. It was the car's lack of competitiveness before the summer break that cost them the title. Despite the disappointment, Verstappen chose to stay. Throughout 2025, he was heavily linked with Mercedes and Aston Martin, and those rumors have not disappeared. If Red Bull are not competitive in 26, those conversations will return quickly. But former world champion Damon Hill believes Verstappen's behavior late last season tells a deeper story. Hill argues that if Red Bull were truly lost heading into the new regulations, Verstappen would already be voicing frustration and applying pressure. Instead, he finished the season praising the team, lifting morale, and speaking with pride about their fight back. That does not sound like a driver preparing an exit. It sounds like someone who believes in what is coming. Red Bull may have lost famous names, but the organization itself has not collapsed. They fought until the final races of 2025, under enormous pressure, and that competitive DNA remains. With Gianpiero Lambiase staying as Verstappen's race engineer and a positive working relationship forming with new team principal Laurent Mekies, stability exists where it matters most. What makes this moment even more fascinating is how quietly Red Bull have gone about rebuilding their confidence. There has been no loud PR campaign, no bold declarations that they will dominate again, and no attempt to control expectations. Instead, the change has been subtle. Engineers speak with more certainty, management sound more settled, and the language around the power unit has shifted from survival to performance. That alone is significant. In Formula One, teams that are genuinely worried tend to overcompensate with reassurance. Teams that are quietly confident usually say very little. Red Bull's current silence speaks volumes. It suggests that the internal data, the simulations, and the early test results are finally lining up with what they hoped to see when this project was first launched. There is also a growing sense that Red Bull may have approached the 2026 rules with a different philosophy to most of their rivals. While others have focused on minimizing risk and protecting reliability, Red Bull appear to have leaned into performance potential. That is a dangerous strategy if it fails, but a devastating one if it succeeds. The Ford partnership was never meant to be a conservative choice. It was a statement that Red Bull wanted full control of their destiny, even if that meant accepting a higher level of uncertainty in the short term. Now, for the first time, it seems that risk is starting to look calculated rather than reckless. Historically, that is when Red Bull have been at their most dangerous. They perform best when underestimated, when written off, and when forced to prove something. That mentality runs deep inside the organization. It fuels their competitiveness and sharpens their focus. The idea that rivals believe they will fall back into the midfield may be exactly the motivation they need. At the same time, the grid itself is heading into one of the most unstable periods Formula One has ever seen. Mercedes are desperate to reclaim dominance. Ferrari are under constant pressure to finally convert potential into titles. Audi are building for the long term. Aston Martin are trying to justify their massive investment. McLaren are redefining their identity. In the middle of all that chaos, Red Bull's ability to stay unified could become their greatest strength. Stability? Even imperfect stability often beats brilliance that is divided. This is why Verstappen's attitude is so important. Drivers are the first to sense when a project is drifting. They feel it in the simulator feedback, in the briefings, and in the way questions are answered behind closed doors. If Verstappen truly believed Red Bull were lost, his tone would already be sharper, his comments more guarded, and his commitment more conditional. Instead, he sounds measured, he sounds invested, and that suggests the team is giving him reasons to believe. Ultimately, 2026 is not just about lap time, it is about identity. Red Bull are redefining who they are. Without Adrian Newey, without their old leadership structure, and without an external engine supplier, they are becoming something entirely new. That transformation is either the foundation of their next era of success or the moment where their empire begins to fracture. And right now, for the first time in a long time, the balance seems to be tipping toward belief rather than fear.